Saturday night's main event is in the books, and we do have our new number one contender for Drew McIntyre's world title. He will be getting the title shot at the Royal Rumble. Sami Zayn did, in fact, win the four-way tonight at Saturday night's main event to earn his shot at Drew McIntyre. As expected, we kind of had a feeling it would be him. Tonight's show was short, sweet, to the point, 2 hours long, 4 matches. All in all, I thought the show was predictable as all hell, but still pretty good. We had a really fun match between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. It was good to see Rhea Ripley and Io Sky retain the titles. Cody and Jacob Fatu had a predictable yet fun brawl, and we did see Sami Zayn getting the win there in his hometown in Montreal in the main event, and he now heads to the Royal Rumble 1 week from tonight, or today. That match is already going to have taken place by the time we are this time Saturday night next week. But he's now getting the title shot against Drew McIntyre. And what does that mean? Does that mean Sami Zayn is winning the championship in Saudi Arabia? Or are they going to do something fun? I want to know all of your thoughts about the Royal Rumble and what you thought of tonight's Saturday night's main event as well. But now that we know who Drew is going to be facing, what do you think that means for Sami at the Rumble? Does Sami beat Drew and win the championship? If he does, what that will mean is that WWE decided probably weeks ago to put the title on Sami Zayn at the Rumble, but they didn't want Cody to be the champion that he beat. They probably thought it would be better for him to beat a heel, so they gave the title to Drew McIntyre and made him a transitional champion. I'm not sure if that's very fair to Drew. I think there's a very likely chance that Drew McIntyre and CM Punk both walk into WrestleMania as champions, both of them. So if Sami wins the title, that just means Drew was transitional. But you could also see something happen like what Becky Lynch did a few years ago, back in 2018, when she lost to Asuka and then came back and won the Royal Rumble. You could see that with Gunther and AJ if they did that match with AJ winning, and then Gunther comes back to win the Rumble. But I'm not sure if Gunther's going to be in a title match this year at Mania. I think he's going to be involved either with AJ in a retirement match at Mania, another one, or maybe with Brock Lesnar or something like that. But they could also do it with Sami Zayn. Sami could lose to Drew somehow and then come back and win the Rumble and then get another shot at Drew at Mania. Or, they could have Sami come ever so close here in Saudi Arabia, but then get the big moment next year at WrestleMania 43, which will also be in Saudi Arabia. So we could see it going a lot of different ways here, and we do have a prediction stream coming on Tuesday where I will talk all about this in depth. But from where I sit right now, I'm still feeling like Drew's going to go to Mania as champion, is the way I feel like they're going. So Sami is probably going to have to fall short somehow at the Rumble next week, and how they do that, I have no idea, but he could also come back and win the Rumble. But if they want to stretch it to next year, if they want to have Sami have this Saudi Arabian moment, maybe it's next year, not this year, but who knows? But either way, he won the match tonight. Predictions-wise, I was perfect in my predictions, went 4 for 4, but I'm not patting myself on the back too much because all of that was really predictable. Even the Cody and Fatu match I mentioned in the podcast today, that I believe we're going to get no winner. It's either going to be no winner or one of them's going to get disqualified, but neither one of those guys' shoulders is going to be pinned to the mat, and that match never really even got underway. It was just a brawl the whole time. So the whole show was pretty predictable, but it was still a solid show. Wasn't bad at all. It was running head-to-head with Collision. Sounds like Collision was halfway decent. They taped that on Wednesday. So if you're a wrestling fan, you have no shortage of shit to watch tonight. If you are just tuning in, I want to thank everybody who joined us earlier today for the podcast. We did a big double header. So we went live at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific today and did like a 2.5 hour long podcast where I reviewed WWE Unreal Season 2. We talked about The Rock's involvement next year at WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia, possible involvement because he's going to be offered a huge deal. We talked about Powerhouse Hobbs update in the WWE, the Trey Miguel situation. We talked about SmackDown, Raw, Dynamite, bunch of things. So please check out that podcast. And if you are listening via one of the podcast sites, via audio, I'm going to be adding this Saturday night's main event review to the end of that before I push it out to the feed. So you'll have one big, long, probably close to 3-hour podcast here encompassing everything that we talked about today and today's Saturday night's main event review. So we're going to jump right into it here. You can feel free in the chat there to let me know your grades, A, B, C, or D, 1 through 10. You can grade the show in there, and we will start busting out these matches one at a time. We'll start with the opener, like I said, Cody Rhodes and Jacob Fatu. This thing was just a brawl, and we kind of felt like it would be. They had a great setup for this last night on SmackDown. Really well done interview with Cody Rhodes that Jacob Fatu crashed. There was some words back and forth. It was all real good. And Jacob, he looks like during his time off, he's really gotten himself in shape. And he said he went from EBT to WWE. Fucking love that. And he came out to the ring. He's ready to rock. He hits the ring first. Cody comes out next. But Jacob attacks Cody while he's making his entrance. Right when he gets up to the ring, he knocks him off the ropes right in the middle of the pyro. And they just start brawling. And Jacob takes out the referee, little Nate, and so a bunch of referees and officials swarm the ring, and it basically just becomes one big pull-apart with Cody and Jacob brawling all around the ringside area, all through the crowd, up into the concession stands where Cody is bouncing trash cans off motherfuckers' heads and stuff, and they find themselves back through the crowd, and all the while, officials are trying to pull them apart. They're getting beat up, super kicked, slammed, everything. It's just a trail of bodies that these two guys are leaving. And they finally find themselves over kind of near the production area in the crowd. And that's when Drew McIntyre shows up. Drew McIntyre shows up, throws Jacob Fatu. They're kind of like on a platform, Cody and Jacob. Throws Jacob off one side. He goes through a table and then power bombs Cody off the other side through the table. And that's pretty much the end of it. So just a no contest. Nobody wins this match. McIntyre showed up and he just beat the hell out of both guys. Now, McIntyre is still maintaining that he was not the one who attacked Jacob Fatu. He said last night on SmackDown that if it was him, he'd be out here bragging about it. It wasn't him. So, that's a nice whodunit angle there and might be a good place if you want to bring in a powerhouse Hobbs. Maybe he could be the one behind it. I don't know. But I feel like we're going to get more, at least from Cody and Jacob. And maybe it turns out to be Cody who attacked him, which a few people have suggested. I just don't think so. Juliet, you're giving the show an A, huh? All right. That's fair. I'll give it a B. I'll probably go B. Roman Reigns, yeah, I could totally see Roman Reigns winning the Rumble. The way that WrestleMania is shaking out right now, I'd be okay with Roman and Drew. I think there's a big part of the audience that wouldn't be. I would be fine with it. I wouldn't push back on that. I'd be fine with Roman and Sami if Sami beats Drew. I would be fine with Roman and Punk. Roman and Punk would be great. But I also think Punk and Cody would be great. And I would love a scenario where, they're setting the stuff up with Cody and Jacob, right? So maybe at the Rumble, Jacob and Cody, or let's say Jacob eliminates Cody or something like that, or they cause each other's eliminations, but Jacob is the reason that Cody gets eliminated, and then you stick them both in the Elimination Chamber in Chicago, and maybe it comes down to Cody and Jacob is the final two, and Cody wins the chamber and goes on to WrestleMania to face CM Punk. That wraps up the Jacob business, at least a little bit. For now, in the chamber, Cody gets the title shot against Punk, maybe wins the title, and then turns heel. Because if Punk and Cody face at WrestleMania, I think it would be more fun if one of them turned heel. Instead of being this babyface love fest of respect between the two of them, I think it would be better for the fans if there was some animosity there. So if one of them turned heel, and that's where you do the Cody heel turn, I still think it's a bit too early, but I'm open to anything at this point. I don't really care. So Cody turns heel at WrestleMania, wins the title from Punk by turning heel tactics to win the title, and then boom, his first challenger after winning the title is babyface Jacob Fatu at Backlash or wherever the fuck. Maybe you got to do a rematch with Punk first and then do Jacob. Something like that, but Punk and Cody or Roman and Punk, I think would be more fun. Basically, at this point where we're sitting, and based on who's champions and who's around, I think CM Punk needs to be in the Night 2 main event over Drew McIntyre. But I don't know. Like if it's going to be the 2 title matches, one's going to main event Night 1, one's going to main event Night 2. Which one does it? We've seen them try to elevate the world title on an even playing field with the WWE, because last year Jey Uso challenged Gunther for the world title, which was kind of surprising. I always assumed that the Rumble winner by default would just challenge for the Drew belt or the Cody belt, that one. But that's not necessarily the case now. So, you could have Roman winning and just straight up challenging Punk or challenging for that title. But the winner of the Rumble doesn't necessarily have to be in the main event of Night 2. I just think Punk, has had the more consistent year since coming back and probably has earned that main event spot on Night 2. But we'll see. Meltzer's website just crashed. I wonder why. Maybe Dave did it. Dave did it himself. Anyway, Cody and Fatu went to a no contest. Nothing happened there. But these two guys are going to face again. And they're going to have a lot to do with each other's Rumble eliminations and statuses, I think. And I think if you make them the final 2 in the chamber, that could be fun, especially if it leads to a match after WrestleMania between the two, maybe with a title on the line. So that could be what we're doing. Delayed Grats, it wasn't 3 matches in 2 hours. It was 4 matches in 2 hours. We had 4 on Saturday night's main event. Not bad. But yeah, TNA had 3, but they at least had commercial. Well, we had commercials here too. But it's not like it's on cable, All right, after Cody and Fatu, it was time for the women's tag team title match. This one was okay. I really wanted Io Sky and Rhea Ripley to retain here because last night on SmackDown, we saw Kiana James and Julia become number 1 contenders for the women's tags. Now, they didn't say when this match is going to happen yet, but the fact that Io, Sky, and Julia could be in the ring one-on-one or in the ring together, I should say, for a championship in the WWE is kind of cool, and I want to see that. So I was really hoping Rhea and Io would retain, and their status, they're both going to be in the Royal Rumble, correct? And both of them easily could be favored to win, but I kind of think the Rumble is Liv Morgan's match to win. So if Liv wins the Rumble, what does Io and Ripley do at WrestleMania? Are they actually going to go into WrestleMania as tag team champions? They might. I think there's a big, because we still have to have another match between them, right? Ripley has never beaten Io, and then we finally had the big rematch at Evolution, right? And that's when Naomi cashed in and, kind of fucked that whole deal up. So we still don't really have that final match between them. And I think there's a good chance we could get that at WrestleMania. But how do we get that? Would it be for a championship? Would one of them win a world title between now and then? I don't see how. I feel like Stephanie, we saw her tonight, obviously, but if she drops the title to Raquel Rodriguez or something, then I feel like Liv would win the Rumble and it would be the 2 of them. And I don't know. I don't know how that would be a title match. So it's kind of all up in the air still. But basically in this match, we saw Raquel Rodriguez get involved. She came out and attacked the champions, attacked Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky saved a near fall there, pulled the referee out of the ring, I think, and then attacked both of them. But then she was then snuffed out by a returning Stephanie Vaquer. Her music played, and she came running down to the ring in no walking boot. So I cannot tell you how relieved I am, because I was convinced that first night when she came out on Raw and she was in the walking boot and she had tears in her eyes that she was going to forfeit the title, and then she didn't. But then she got attacked by Raquel, and I'm like, okay, they're not going to have her forfeit the title. They're going to just knock her out with an injury angle. That would explain the tears. But maybe the tears was just the uncertainty. Maybe she wasn't exactly sure yet that night if she was going to have to vacate the title or not, and then her ankle is healing and better, and it probably still hurts like shit, but she's out there running around on it, and she's back. So we have Raw this Monday. I think there's a really good chance they tack on Raquel versus Stephanie for the championship at the Royal Rumble. And we could see Raquel win. And then it's Liv Morgan winning the Rumble, and it's Liv and Raquel, and that causes that's just a Judgment Day turmoil all the way leading into WrestleMania. And then you factor in maybe Balor on his way out as well, Dominic coming back, tension between Liv and Raquel and Roxanne, and people are going to be out and attacked and turned on, and all that stuff might make for some fun television, I guess. But if it's going to be Rhea and Io, if they're going to get a match in between them, would they have that match with both of them being tag team champions? Would it just be them facing each other one more time to finally see who will win? I mean, they're so much in love with each other. I feel like something's going to happen to spark that match, not just, hey, let's go have a friendly contest again. They already did that a couple of times. So I think next time, it might be Rhea Ripley turning on Io Sky. Maybe that's what they do. Maybe between now and WrestleMania, they drop the championships. And then when they drop them, maybe it's Ripley turning heel on Io Sky, because you can't turn Io heel. There's no way. We love her. So Ripley maybe goes heel, beats the shit out of Io, and then they do the match at WrestleMania, and Ripley wins. And then by the process of her winning that match at WrestleMania against Io, that makes her kind of the automatic number one contender after WrestleMania, and then she wins the belt immediately. After that, something like that. I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on with them, or what they're going to do, or where Ripley and Io are going to land WrestleMania-wise in terms of the world title. Because right now it feels like they could be out, and you got Bianca hopefully coming back to be on the SmackDown side of things with Jade and all of that going on, and Jordynne Grace and everybody else over there. So I don't know. But Stephanie was able to come out and help out and eliminate Raquel Rodriguez from the equation. Liv comes in with an oblivion on Io Sky, but Io tags Ripley on the way down. So Ripley then hits the ring, hits Liv Morgan with the Riptide for the win, and Ripley and Io Sky retain the titles, which makes me very happy because I'm ready for that next match. But I am curious now what Ripley and Io do at WrestleMania, and if either one of them at this point are a realistic shot to win the Rumble, because right now Liv's kind of on my radar for that. So good news is we're going to find out in just a couple of days. After that, it was what appears to be for the final time ever, AJ Styles one-on-one with Shinsuke Nakamura. This was set up last night on SmackDown when Aldis invited AJ Styles to SmackDown, and that's when Nakamura approached and said he wanted this match, and they made it, Nakamura and AJ Styles, and this one was fun. It was just a nice, heartwarming type of match. Maybe started a tad slow, but really picked up at the end, and the fans were into it. AJ gets the win with the phenomenal forearm and Styles Clash combo. Very awesome. Show of respect after the match between the two. Nice hug. Appreciation from the audience. Appreciation from the announcers. It was really awesome. And AJ in his entrance came out in a mask. And Michael Cole referenced that the last time he wore a mask was in January of 2016, just a couple of weeks before he debuted in the Royal Rumble in New Japan against Shinsuke Nakamura. And this is the first time him wearing one since then, and he wore it out to the ring. And his career is on the line, of course, at the Royal Rumble on Saturday, and I'm suspicious whether or not this is really going to be it for him. I think ending it in Saudi Arabia would be wild. And if he did lose, I would be very suspicious that something else is going to happen. Like he's going to show back up maybe in TNA, win the TNA title, and then be like, no, man, I just retired from WWE. That's it. Because I think it would be cool if he ended his career at the Rumble in 2026, considering he began it at the Rumble in 2016. A nice, even 10-year block that AJ occupied WWE. Nice and neat. I like that type of thing. But what I don't like is the idea of AJ calling it a career in Saudi Arabia, of all places, at the Royal Rumble, especially when the announcers keep alluding to the fact that AJ wanted to have a retirement run in 2026. like kind of work the year and then retire. Where we had heard last year that his contract was coming up soon, and if he does retire, it probably will be WrestleMania at the latest. So you don't really know what to believe yet, but I have a hard time believing that he really is going to retire at the Royal Rumble. And so if he wins, what does that mean for Gunther? Gunther's on this retirement run here of putting down Goldberg, putting down Cena. Now he's going to lose to AJ. So I think something has to happen. What I think they might do is find, and I don't know how they would do it, but somehow get out of that match without AJ retiring, whether that means he beats Gunther or there's some fucking interference or what? Because, what about this? What if it's a DQ? Is there rules in this match? If they made a no holds barred or no disqualification stip? Because if they didn't, that means this is regular ass one-on-one. What if AJ goes outside the ring, grabs a chair, blasts Gunther in the face with it, the referee sees it, DQs AJ, his career is over? Imagine it ending like that. So maybe there's a loophole, maybe there's something there, and whatever they do, it eventually leads to a rematch at WrestleMania where AJ's career is once again on the line, and that's where it ends. Or he survives this one and has a healthy run throughout 2026. But if he loses, if he gets straight up beat by Gunther at the Rumble next week, I am going to be disappointed that it ended that way for him. And I would be suspicious that there's more than that than meets the eye. Like they can't end it like that. They can't end it at the Rumble. But based on the match with Nakamura tonight, very emotional. Watching AJ's body language, this is the final victory of my career type of thing. It very well could have been. But let's hope that it's not. Let's hope that AJ isn't flying all the way to Saudi Arabia to end his career and then have to take that long flight back home. If he ends his career, it's either got to be at WrestleMania or, maybe a Saturday night's main event more centered around him. If there is a Saturday night's main event, you guys look it up. Is there a Saturday night's main event on the calendar this year in Atlanta? If there's one in Georgia, if there's one in Atlanta, that could be where he calls it a career. So either at WrestleMania or maybe like at an Atlanta SNME is where I think maybe it should happen. But yeah, Intimidator, we talked about that today on the podcast. He could come back to WWE via TNA, but do we want that? Do we want him to straight up lose to Gunther and then worm his way back in? That's not something a cherished baby face would do, one that we're about to send off. It would have to be a situation where he gets fucked. Like if he loses, he can't lose clean. He can't lose clean to Gunther and then come back via TNA. I'm against that. But he could get fucked over because remember, he got fucked over already. He had Gunther tapping. Gunther was tapping. Referee didn't see it. Gunther then beat him. You do another situation like that where Gunther is tapping out, but the referee is out or he's bumped or something has happened and he doesn't see it. Gunther tapping again. And then Gunther winds up winning and the fans are chanting bullshit or whatever. Then you do something maybe with TNA where he comes back in. He's not going to look like a chump because he got royally fucked twice. So I would only accept the TNA thing if it was like that. But if Gunther just beats him, power bombs him and beats him clean right in the middle, then he's done. I don't want to see him come back through TNA. It's got to be something where he's really done wrong. Like his career was stolen from him and he's not going to let it stand. And neither is WWE or TNA officials. Maybe WWE pretends like, well, we can't do anything. It's in the contract. He lost. Sorry, his career is over. And TNA is like, no, fuck that. We're bringing him in. And he wins their championship. And then he takes the TNA championship into WrestleMania to defend it against Gunther. But then he's got to put two things on the line. Then he's going to be putting the TNA title and his career on the line against Gunther. And then Gunther not only beats AJ and ends his career, now Gunther is the TNA champion, and WWE will not let anybody in TNA beat Gunther, which means Gunther will be the permanent champion, and that belt is now held hostage forever. It would have to be, somebody in WWE would then have to beat Gunther for it, and then that person would have to go to TNA and drop it to a TNA star. But no TNA star would beat Gunther for the title. So I think something fun like that, though, with AJ, basically all I care about really at the end of the day with this is that the Rumble isn't the end. They can do it a lot of different ways. You can book this 16,000 different ways. So as long as whatever they do at the Rumble is not the end of AJ Styles' in-ring wrestling career, then I'm fine. I'm more concerned with this not being the end for him than really how they book it, because I would really like to see AJ compete at WrestleMania. And if that's the end for him, then fine. If WrestleMania is the end, then fine. But if he even wants to extend it beyond that, then I'm also fine. But for me as a fan, I would prefer AJ retiring no earlier than WrestleMania, personally. And I feel like most people agree with that. Off Leather Wings, appreciate the $2. You want me to react to Hornswoggle versus El Torito from 2014 as if I'm a sociopath. I don't know. On our watch-alongs, we've got some super chat rules that guarantee you matches. I think that's the only way that one's going to get done. Man, oh man, Hornswoggle, El Torito. Hendry. Oh, yeah, you got to think about Joe. Well, Joe Hendry will be probably in the Rumble. All right, well, that leaves us with the main event. Number one contenders, fatal four-way to determine who Drew McIntyre's challenger at the Royal Rumble will be. It was Sami Zayn versus Randy Orton versus Damian Priest versus Tricky William, as Santino calls him. This one wasn't surprising. Rumble's in Saudi. It's got to be Sami. It's got to be Sami. Sami and McIntyre, perfect match to do. So a lot of what they did in the ring was a formality to me. It was going to be Sami. I thought the match was still good. Couple of close calls there where I actually thought I was wrong, where I thought maybe even Priest would win. I thought Trick Williams would take the pin. He did not. It was Damian Priest who wound up getting pinned by Sami after all the smoke cleared. And Sami came in with that final haluva kick, got the pin on Priest, and he is heading now to the Royal Rumble. And as expected, because Drew McIntyre showed up in the opener, he did show up here, tried to attack Sami Zayn, but Sami sidestepped him, chucked him over the top rope, and Drew winds up retreating. So it is official now. Sami Zayn versus Drew McIntyre at the Rumble. Not a big surprise there. You know, we kind of figured that he would be the one to win this match, and he did. So what does that mean? Is he actually going to win the title now? I doubt it, but you don't know. You know, you really don't know. Based on what we saw on WWE Unreal Season 2, you know, I'm never going to, WWE is never going to do anything too crazy. I just don't think that writer's room can really have enough guts to go nuts, you know, so to speak. And even if they do something surprising, it's going to be all just very, very confined and not too over the top. So if they're going to do a quick little hot tater here with the title, at this point, that would surprise me. You know, I do feel like if Sami's going to win the title at the Rumble, then beating a heel like Drew is better than beating Cody, which would explain why Drew won. But that would make Drew a 3-week transitional champion, and I don't know how fair that is to him either. So we have predictions coming up on Tuesday, but as of right now, I still feel like McIntyre is more likely to walk into WrestleMania as champion than not. They might want to save the Sami Zayn stuff for next year, because next year WrestleMania is in Saudi Arabia. And as we talked about today on the podcast, they are prepared to make Rock some historic offer here to come in and wrestle his last match. And if he does that, it's going to be against Roman Reigns. I mean, you would think. So that would eliminate Roman anyway from the title picture next year, opening up the door, you know, for maybe Sami Zayn to win the Rumble, wherever the Rumble is next year, and then go to WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia and get the win there. So you know how on WWE Unreal, the famous scene with Triple H and LA Knight, where he's trying to explain to LA Knight how all that was set up for him. You know, it was all set up for you. You get up there, you almost got it. Oh, fuck, you know, and then you pull Seth down, and then he pulls you down, and you're fighting, and you're so close, you can taste it. You got your fingers on the briefcase, and you just fall short, and the fans will get invested in your story. He's trying to explain this to LA Knight. Meanwhile, LA Knight's just staring off like, fuck this. What if they're trying to do that Same thing here with Sami Zayn, just only stretched out for a year, where he's going to be fighting and clawing his nutsack off all Royal Rumble. He's going to be facing Drew, and he's going to come oh so close. He's going to have the match won, but he's going to fall short. Something's going to happen. Drew's going to fuck him, and he's going to fall short. Maybe he even comes back and tries to win the Royal Rumble later, and something else fucks him. Drew fucks him again. Who knows? And he's just so close, and fans are kind of pissed. They're kind of pissed about it, that he was so close. We really wanted to see that, and WWE's going to make them wait 14 months to do it again until they return to Saudi Arabia for another big show. And don't forget, WWE's got 2 other shows in Saudi this year, along with the Rumble. There's 2 more that we're going to have there. So, there might be something else, with Sami again. Maybe they bring him back there for another title shot in the Night of Champions show or something, and he falls short again. And you got fans in Saudi about to riot. Riot hard. And then Sami next year wins the Rumble, and then he gets the title shot in Saudi Arabia, gets the big moment, wins the title in Saudi Arabia next year. The only problem with that is you're telegraphing the hell out of it, and Sami going in as the challenger after losing at the Rumble, and then maybe after losing again in Saudi and one of the other shows, you're going to turn around and have him lose the title match next year. It would be a very, very predictable match, but predictable isn't always bad, so we don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they do with Sami. But either way, he's heading into the Rumble next Saturday to challenge Drew McIntyre. So that is pretty much it. It's been a long day of chatting. We had a 2.5-hour podcast earlier on today, and now we've had a 2.5-hour live stream. So you've had nearly 5 straight hours of my face. So you guys are probably tired of my ass. Plus, there's probably 1,600 other YouTubers up right now doing their Saturday Night's Main Event reviews. So I'm going to go ahead and bounce out of here. I will work on posting the podcast to the podcast sites here in just a minute, and I'm going to add this review on to the end of that so you guys can have it all in one big chunk there. So thank you so much for hanging out with me this evening. This was fun, and thanks for everyone who was here for the podcast earlier. Please check out the podcast that went live right before Saturday Night's Main Event if you have not yet already. And please join us tomorrow night for another big watch-along. WWE Vault Watch-Along goes live at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. 8 big matches on tap. We're going to be going head-to-head with the second half of the Rams and Seahawks AFC Championship game. So we'll have that on somewhere. I'll be eyeballing the game. We'll be watching wrestling, kicking back, put our jammies on. A lot of you might be snowed in. Get a nice fire going, some snacks, maybe a frosty cold one, and we'll be hanging out tomorrow watching 8 great matches, including Randy Savage versus DDP, Spring Stampede, Ultimate Warrior versus Andre the Giant. We've got Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole, Randy Orton versus John Cena, I Quit match, the first ever women's elimination chamber, Medusa and Luna Vachon, and I believe Undertaker and The Rock versus Edge and Christian. So those are the matches on tap for tomorrow. Going to be a fun one. Y'all have a good rest of your Saturday night, and I'll be catching you soon. Peace.